Alright, gents, let's start our netting. We're going to use this global IP address for our netting. All the traffic coming from SRX, the VPN traffic that we're going to build here, the VPN. This all traffic is going to, we're going to have a default route set on internal firewall that is going to send all the traffic to external firewall. And once the edge firewall is going to receive the packets from source address of 172.168.12.2, the, the interface IP address of the source, and if the packet is destined to the pair IP address, which is going to be 188.184.131.2, so SRX is going to translate source NAT and change the source IP address to this global IP address that we're going to use for netting. And then ASA is going to receive, you can see here the local IP, and the pair IP is 197.168.10.10, which is the netted IP. ASA is going to receive the packets to negotiate or start building the VPN on 10.10, and then going to send the response back to the external firewall. As external firewall already know, this is the response of a packet that was sent by the internal firewall, and the edge firewall has this uh, onto translated this onto the global IP. Then it's gonna translate back this into the source address of the internal firewall and send the packet back to the SRX. So this is how this all communication is going to work. So because of this NAT, ASA cannot see our internal IP address. So basically it's just hiding our internal uh, IP address behind this global IP. So let's see how we configure this NAT. Let's go to our CLI. Let's do a bit of cleaning. All right, looks better. Then let's go to the CLI. Okay, so this is our edge firewall. Let's log in, root. It drops into our Linux mode, bash mode, and command we need is CLI. It will drop us into the configuration mode, operational mode. So this is, we need to go to the configuration mode. Just to check all the interfaces are correct, we have already configured. So if you want to do or run any operational command while we are in config mode, so we can use keyword run, and then you can use the complete command that you would normally give on the operational mode. It's just like in Cisco, you in the configuration mode you use do, the keyword just before the any operational command. So run show interface address just to check the IP address. Yes, 0. Yes, this is configured. Now to start with the configuration, we need to do few things. First of all, we need the IP address that we're going to use. So we have our IP address 197.168.10.10. This is going to be we're going to create a pool and put that IP address into the pool, and then we need to create a NAT rule. So that NAT rule is going to be that NAT rule is going to be from the traffic coming from the transit zone and going to untrust untrust zone. So if you look at, this is our transit zone, if you remember, this is our transit zone, and the packet is going to come from transit zone on this firewall, edge firewall, and the traffic need to go to the untrust zone. So our rule will be any traffic that is coming from this source IP and it's destined to this IP and it's coming from transit zone and going to untrust zone. If that matches, if all these conditions match, then you need to do what? You need to do a source net onto this IP address. So this is we're going to create. So we're going to build this rule. So I'm going to repeat. So any traffic coming from transit zone going to untrust, and whereas source is 172.168.12.2 and destination is 188.84.131.2, and then trans translate that source address into this destination. So let's now create the rule. Bit of cleaning. All right, so let's start. We are already in configuration mode. The first thing we need to create the pool of that IP address. So for that, the command we use is set security NAT and source. We're going to do the source NAT. So source, then keyword we're going to use pool, then source NAT. We're going to give the name of this pool, and name we can give, let's say, uh, a VPN ASA VPN NAT pool. Okay, just for the clarity. And next, we can do quick question mark to see what are the options available. We need the very first one, address, and then we're going to specify the address exactly that is our IP address 197.168.10.10/32. Right. So now our pool is defined. Okay, so now we're going to create the NAT rule. For that, it starts set security. So most of the commands actually start, all the commands starts with set and then security. And then we're going to use, because we're going to do the NAT, so we use NAT, and then we're going to do a source net, the keyword source, and here we're going to give the command that we're going to give is rule set configuring, because we're going to configure our rule set for this net. So rule set, and then we need to give the name of the rule set. So we can say rule set 1, or you can give the name or ASA or anything that. So I'm going to use rule set -1. That's going to be my first rule. All right, so RS1 is my first rule name. And what I'm gonna do in this rule, so within this rule set, the first rule I'm going to create is R-1, or to clarify, we can use like, so because this is our rule set, so we can say this is our rule set 1, right? Or just say, or just rule set, and then we can say the rule is RS R1. So this is our first rule, and then we're gonna specify in this rule okay, so we have defined the pool. Next is we're going to create the rule set, and within the rule set for this NAT, and then within that rule set, we're going to create further rules. We need to understand the hierarchy. It can be a bit confusing, but I'll try to uh, make it as simple as it's possible. So we already know that we need to create a rule. So set security is the keyword. We're going to use security and then NAT. And then we're going to define what type of NAT we're going to. Is it destination NAT, source NAT, static NAT? So we are using source NAT, source, and then the keyword comes the rule set. What we're going to do a rule set. All right. So we need to give the name of this rule set. So rule set name, we can say my rule set, my rule set, right? Okay. So question mark. And now my rule set, and it's going to my in my rule set the first rule within the rule set, right? So this is first I'm creating the rule set for my source net, and then within the rule set I'm going to create the first rule, right? So this is my first rule, R rule 1. So rule 1, rule R1. So this is R1 is the name of my first rule. And then what is going to be my first rule? I'm going to decide match source address. So the first rule going to match source address. What is our source address? Source address is our firewall internal interface IP address 172.168.12.2/32. All right, so this is our first rule, and in the first rule we have defined the source IP address. So the traffic coming from this source going where, right? Going to our destination. So press up arrow, or you can rewrite the command, but up arrow I find quite easy. So in rule set 1, I have to define three things. So in rule set 1, what is the source IP? What is the destination IP? And then what I'm going to do if these two matches. So first I'm matching source IP address. Now I'm going to match destination IP address. Destination, not description, sorry. So match destination address, and my destination address is going to be 188.84.131.2/32. All right. So in my first rule, I have defined source and destination. Now, third thing I need to define, if these two condition, these both matches, then do what? So then we need to do what? We need to source NAT on So R1, then I'm going to use then do what? Do a source NAT. Source NAT and use source NAT on what? We need to use that pool that we have created. Source NAT pool. If you do question mark, you can see over here that source NAT pool that I've created is here. We can just select that and press enter. Right. So we have defined the rule. If I just show you what we have defined, let's see, show pipe compare. I really love this command. It's very good command. Right. So you can see it is showing this is we're gonna add into here, and under security we are creating a NAT rule, which is going to be our source NAT, and in source NAT we have defined a pool. So this is our pool. Within our pool we have this IP address, and then we are defining our rule set. This is my rule set, right? This is, we have defined the name. So within this rule set, I have one rule. So I can have multiple rules here. So there might be another NAT that I want to use, or matching on the source and destination. And then I wanted to use the, maybe probably it's the same pool. So I can use the same pool and do the netting based on the condition. So this is basically just one condition. I can have multiple conditions down here. So rule, the first rule I'm creating, this is R1. I'm saying match. Under this rule match, if the source address is this and destination is this 188, the IP address of the firewall, then do what? Then do a source NAT on a pool and use this pool IP. Whatever the IP address is available in this pool, use that one. Right. So this is what we're going to. Let's see if we do commit check, if our config is complete. Commit check. So this commit check actually checks the syntax and it verifies if there is like any something, there is something wrong or with this configuration. So clearly we can see it says that this config is that you're trying to commit is not complete. So it is complaining about this, which is missing mandatory statement from, right? So even if I try to do commit, it will not let me do a commit because the mandatory statement is missing. So if any of the mandatory statements are missing, or it will not let you carry on saving this config. We have to actually figure out what the error is, and we will try to um, fix that error first. So it says missing mandatory statement from. Is all right. So remember we talked about that we need to first decide, okay, the traffic is coming from where? So traffic is coming from transit zone and going to where? Going to untrust. Okay, if the traffic is coming from going to, then we need to check that, all right, so the traffic is coming from transit and what is the source IP and what is the destination IP. So these are the mandatory statements. So we need to define set security NAT source, and then we can do a question mark, right? So rule set, if we do rule set and do a question mark again, you can see the rule set that we have created is available here. We can use that. So rule set, oh, not double, rule set, and then again do a question mark. All right, so here you got from, right? So we're going to use from and what zone? Zone. Okay, so there are how many zones? You can see there is transit zone and trust zone and untrust zone. So we need to traffic is coming from transit zone. We know that. Okay. Enter. So now next is where the traffic is going to. We'll set to, then zone, and going now the traffic is going to untrust zone. Enter. Now commit check. Good. Now you can see it's happy. So it says configuration is succeeded. Let's commit to save this configuration. Right, so this is our NAT is complete now. Now let's do some check our the basic routing, and if there is any route missing, let's add some static routes in there. Right.